There's no doubting how huge the Power Rangers were during the 90s and even still today. With millions of viewers tuning in for every episode, I'm just assuming it was millions because I can't find any data on it, and it just sounds good. And with Power Rangers' successful line of toys, video games, and even in feature film, there's no doubting that Saban Entertainment wanted to keep this ball going and try different shows using that same formula as Power Rangers, which is finding a show from Japan, like Super Sentai, and putting an American twist on it, while still using footage from the original show. These Power Rangers quote-unquote copycats, for lack of a better term, included VR Trooper, Ninja Turtles, and Next Mutation, and the show that we're going to be talking about today, Big Bad Beetleborgs. Is the show rad, or is it bad? Let's find out. So what is Big Bad Beetleborgs about? In short, it's about three kids, Drew, Jamal, and Joe, who get dared to go into a haunted mansion that's filled with basically the Universal monsters, and while there, they release a magic ghost named Flabber, who grants them a wish to become their favorite comic book superheroes, the Big Bad Beetleborgs. With that, all the villains get released as well, and they have to defeat them all to protect their town of Charterville. This show aired September 6, 1996 on Fox Kids, and lasted 2 seasons. The show, just like the Power Rangers, uses footage from a Japanese show called Juku B-Fighter and B-Fighter Kabuto. I probably missaid all of that, but that's what it is. So I watched all 2 seasons of Beetleborgs for this review, which at the time of this video's release is currently on Netflix. As a disclaimer, I'm not going to go into crazy detail about every episode of the show because, well, it follows the same basic formula. Well, for the most part. A villain gets released from the comic, and the kids have to transform, into the Beetleborgs and try to defeat them. Now, I'm basically just going to go ahead and talk about the show as a whole, but I'll go ahead and I'm also going to point out some standout episodes every once in a while. Now, before I get into the actual show, I have to talk about my nostalgic connection with the Beetleborgs. Not gonna lie, when I was younger, I liked the show way more than Power Rangers. I know, it's blasphemy, but you know what? I don't even care. I really enjoyed the show, and I loved the toys. I had pretty much all of them, with the Shadowborg being one of my absolute favorites. I just remember this show being super fun to watch, and just different. But how do I think of the show now? Well, let's just take a small look at this clip from episode 2. Yeah, that pretty much sums up the whole show. Totally unnecessary, cringy, which, by the way, probably didn't even notice the guy in the background jumping and spitting for no reason at all. This show is cringy and totally unnecessary, but yet I kept finding myself wanting to keep watching it. I will say the overall premise is actually a really cool idea. Kids going to a haunted house run by basically the Universal monsters who get a wish granted by a magical ghost who looks like a mix between Elvis and Jay Leno, which I can't unsee now. And they wish to be superheroes from their favorite comic book. The acting in it is over the top, but it kinda has to be because it's basically a comic book come to life. I will say, after the first 10 episodes or so, it does start to get better. Not much better, but it does get better. The best comparison I can make to this show is a more sitcom version of Power Rangers. Power Rangers is more, realistic? Which I'm using that very, very lightly, but it has a more serious and grounded tone, even though it's not very realistic at all. Beetleborgs, like I said, is more of a sitcom and has goofier moments and is very lighthearted. The acting in it is somewhat decent. Some of the characters, like Flabber, is almost a little too over the top, but it kind of works. Also, the costumes for the Beetleborgs are awesome, so are the weapons. I absolutely love them. I actually like them more than the Power Rangers. Maybe not the weapons, but the costumes are super badass, especially in Season 2 when they become Beetleborg Metallics. The villains are your typical Power Ranger style villains, kind of dumb but lovable at the same time. Speaking of Power Rangers, it does have a very similar storyline where there's an evil Beetleborg, aka the Shadow Beetleborg, and they turn him into a good version of a Beetleborg. It's very similar to the storyline with the Green Ranger going evil, then becoming good, then becoming the White Ranger. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar. Like I said, I don't want to go into crazy detail about the show, only because I don't want this video being an hour long. So let's just talk about the end of Season 1 and the beginning of Season 2. Without spoiling the end of Season 1, I will say the big battle is very, very underwhelming. The final boss was just kind of bleh. I don't know, I was just expecting a crazier battle, and it was just like 2 seconds long. However, it does set up for Season 2, which is called Beetleborgs Metallics, which the first episode of Season 2, the Beetleborgs get all their weapons and armor destroyed by a new baddie. Then they have to go work with the creators of the Beetleborg comics to create new armor, and they call it Beetleborgs Metallics. Who would have guessed? After rewatching the show as an adult, I realized why I liked it so much as a kid. From the humor and the comic book style of the show to the toys, it was everything I wanted and needed from a show at the time. So is it rad or is it bad? Well, I'll say this, it's so bad that it makes it rad. I don't really give out scores, but if I had to, I would say maybe a 6 out of 10. It's overall a decent show that has some pretty good moments, but it also has its fair share of not so great moments and very bad acting. Oh, I almost forgot to mention 2 things. One, there's these 2 little rich douchebags that I do not like, and I hope they die. I've never liked them. They're just snobby, and there's just something about them. I don't know if it's the acting or the way their stupid, snobby little rich faces look, but I just don't like them. Also, the theme song. I totally forgot to talk about the theme song, so I'm a sucker for a good theme song. This one, some people might like it. So it reminds me a mix between the Poke Rap and the Power Rangers theme song. I don't know why, but those are just the vibes I get. You can definitely tell or hear the influence from Power Rangers theme song on it. But it just has this weird rapping to it that I don't know if I like or not. Overall, if you have kids, I think they would really enjoy the show. It's goofy, it's not super serious, and it's kind of like the generic version of Power Rangers. If you guys saw the show as a kid, or if you've rewatched it recently, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. Like I said, overall, I thought it was decent. It's not as good as I remembered, but it could have been worse. It could have been way worse.